Okay, I'm going to provide a brief overview of the different things that you want to prepare for the second exam. The second exam covers chapters, the European chapter and Russian chapter. I forget the numbers off the top of my head at this point. Let's see, that would be 4 and 5. Yeah, 4 and 5. And so I'm just going to run through it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I'm going to let you folks, dig in. And but I just want to explain everything at least briefly so that you could get started. As I always do, I suggest you prepare well. Prepare using the index cards, and also in this case there's going to be the format's exactly the same like the first test, but there is going to be a matching question, and so that's about the only thing different here, but it will allow you to be well prepared if you understand these different concepts, and all these things are gone over in the recordings or during class. So if you look at the dominant climates of Western and Southern Europe, these are dominated by, in the south, it's the Mediterranean climate, and when you get into Western Europe in the north, it's the West Coast climate form of the very modified climate that you find there, the West Coast version of it. And the climates are really created by and caused by that warm water that wraps its way around as the Gulf Stream, but it drifts across the Atlantic as the North Atlantic Drift. That really provides this large area in Western Europe of that marine West Coast climate, that CFB climate. The Mediterranean climate is going to be found at lower latitudes between 30 and 40 degrees, and that's going to cover the areas of the edges of the Mediterranean, which is a great climate for agriculture. And when you look at the characteristics of the Mediterranean climate, they're a little different. They're going to be the temperatures are going to be warm throughout the year, and pretty mild throughout the year. The rain's going to come in the winter, though. You're going to have winter rain and a summer drought. This is caused because you have shifting high pressure cells that during the winter are sitting over water, sitting over the Mediterranean, and that brings moist winds to these regions and brings rainfall in the wintertime. And in the summer, that high pressure system that sits in the winter over the Mediterranean shifts over land and tends to bring dry weather in the summer. Mediterranean climates globally are found between 30 and 40 degrees of latitude, and they're always on the west coast of continents. The next one's a biggie, and it's a biggie because it requires you to commit to memory all the different stages of the demographic transition model. I took a lot of time in class, and it's on the recording, but if you understand these ideas, it allows you to understand population dynamics around the world. And in Europe, it actually is the place that went through all the transitions first. And so when you look at each stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have each stage spelled out, and you're going to match it to the stage that it's referring to. And I'm going to have 6 statements, and 5 of them are going to refer to stages, and 1's in there just so that you know it really well. I'm going to throw a statement in there that is going to not be one of the stages. And so you need to know each one well. We did it in class. You wrote it down, hopefully. I'm not going to go through it here. This is not that type of review. I will go through some other things, but that's something you have to commit to memory when you take this exam. The total fertility rate, that is the number of children the average woman will have in her lifetime, and these vary from country to country depending on what's going on there. The replacement rate is 2.1, as we talked about in class, and if we look in Europe, the average total fertility rate is much below 2, which means that they're not replacing themselves. And that's why so many European countries are in stage 5 of the demographic transition model, where they're starting to go into population decline. To prepare for this exam, you'll read an article about some of the things that European countries are doing to try to get their birth rates or fertility rates up. when we look at the population characteristics in Europe, that's what it relates to. It relates to the stage 5 decline, and but it also means that migrants have come in, and we've talked about those things. When we look at the characteristics of Western European cities, they're going to have similarities. They're always unique because they're in different countries and there's unique cultures, but they're going to have some qualities, and they're going to be very different than the United States. They're denser than cities in the United States. They are more compact. They are more tuned in and involved with pedestrian, where you could walk in. These are walking cities, but also mass transit is well funded and works very well in most Western European cities. And you also, you don't really get front yards or backyards. You mostly get multi-story apartments. Not much home ownership, not as nearly as much as in the United States. And there's not a lot of sprawl associated because the automobile is not dominated in Europe. The other thing about European cities is that the wealth remains in the center. We saw that in South America, but in European cities, the wealthy people live in the city, and the suburban areas are where a lot of projects are, and that's where the working class people tend to live. And in many cases, in European cities where there's Muslim or other migrants, that's where they live. The good news for them is that it's well connected by mass transit, so they could go to job places, but they are kind of segregated in high-rise type structures.